Morning to you. This is the January 17th edition of the map discussion. We're starting here at 500 millibars. A couple of features. You can see the trough of low pressure centered about Arizona, maybe the Four Corners region, and another trough, a shorter trough in southern Canada and extending towards the Pacific Northwest, while a bit of a ridge has developed in the mid-levels over the Great Lakes with some 50 to 55 knot, maybe even 60 knot flow in the mid-levels there. If we go down a little bit to the 850 millibar map, you can see a low in southern Canada with a trough, or perhaps even an upper level cold front extending from southern Canada in through the northern plains and the central plains and the high desert of New Mexico and western Texas, with some 40 knots of flow out ahead of that, able to bring in some warmer air at the surface. We're going to look at the satellite and surface map. That surface low also over southern Canada, pretty much co-located with the low-level cyclone, with a reinforcing shot of some cooler air up here in the upper Midwest, upper plains, in southern Canada, and some high pressure at the surface located over the southeastern United States. So let's look at how these features will evolve over the next several days. So we're going to look at the GEFS. You can see the features that we just talked about at 500 millibars. This is the 500 millibar mean. So if we push this forward in time, this trough deepens across the northern parts of the United States, and this subtropical jet will kind of like phase into the polar jet and over the southeastern United States, and this will help. This is almost like a what we would call a polar vortex. It sounds scary, but it's really not. This is able to bring in some very, very cold air, and this mean trough pretty much takes its time over the eastern part of the United States. But eventually, once we get into the January 22nd, 23rd time frame, we start to have a bit of a more progressive mean pattern, but still some very good troughiness over the next 10 days is expected in the east. Well, I should say mean troughiness is expected pretty much east of the Rockies, with a little bit of a mean ridge across the Pacific coast, maybe just off the coast of the United States on the western side, and maybe a little bit on the eastern side as well, with a trough in the middle. All right, so here's the surface features as indicated by the GFS that we need to keep an eye on. First, this front, going to expect some cyclone genesis. I say some. Either you have it or you don't. In this case, we got it. Red River, we have a banana-like surface cyclone, at least depicted by this model, by late this evening. Some precipitation overspreading the mid-Mississippi River Valley as these two lows, one in southern Canada and the other one in the Red River Valley between Oklahoma and Texas, kind of phase together. And this precipitation will overspread the Ohio River Valley and southern Appalachians. In the higher terrain, we are expecting the onset of precipitation to be wintry, but this should change to rain as the system slides eastward and weakens. So that's one thing we should keep an eye on. If this cyclone develops, which is fairly good agreement between different types of models, then what we would need to watch out for is snow on the backside. So this snow on the backside will impact areas from pretty much north of North Carolina into Virginia, in the mid-Atlantic, expecting some pretty hefty snow totals across the southern New England. So y'all should be on the lookout for that. Meanwhile, this lake effect snow machine kicks in as this Arctic blast takes shape. Now, here's the interesting part of the forecast. Late Monday afternoon into Tuesday, a surface cyclone, the baroclinic zone, across the coastal regions here in the southern parts of the United States, quote unquote, get activated. And when that happens, you have surface cyclones develop. And since this air is so cold to the north, it is possible that snow could be seen as far south as Lake Charles in Houston, Texas, by late Monday evening into Tuesday, the 21st. And this snow should probably progress eastward and affect coastal regions of the Gulf of Mexico. The last few runs of the Euro model have this. The Canadian model is just going wild. That's probably overdone. But maybe like an inch or so of snow for places like Houston over towards Lake Charles, perhaps Shreveport might not see an inch of snow, but could see some flurries. Yeah, so that's pretty remarkable. Places like doesn't take much for places like Houston to shut down like Atlanta did a few years ago, but it's interesting to watch and to look at. The next storm system that we have to look out for is when this reinforcing shot of cooler air gets tossed back into the United States. A surface cyclone may develop across northern Gulf of Mexico, and this should throw up some precipitation northward. Now, as far as this forecast for Friday, the 24th, for the Carolinas at least, the synoptic setup isn't there for any type of wintry weather. Yeah, we'll have cold air in place, but is it going to be enough? You see this purple line here is a traditional rain snow line. We're places like Charlotte and Greenville, Spartanburg, and even towards northern parts of it, Georgia, are south of that rain snow line. So while it's not exactly the rain snow line, we have this high pressure off of the coast. We're not able to get enough cold air to be pumped into these regions for any type of prolonged winter event for places like Charlotte and Greenville, Spartanburg, up towards Greensboro. So I'm not really too optimistic about this particular setup, at least for the Carolinas. But as depicted by the GFS, this surface low could develop off the coast again and throw up some snow across southern New England. So I'm not too confident in the Friday forecast for this particular model, especially across portions of the southern Appalachian Mountains. But as we get into 10 days from now, the 27th, a high pressure takes its place across the southern New England, maybe central mid-Atlantic regions, while a surface low, and a pretty strong one at that, because the such strong pressures. We have strong high pressure, creating some very windy conditions across the southern plains and mid-Mississippi River Valley. So, it's going to be blustery. So this cold air is originating from the southern Canada. This is going to be pushed and forced its way southward and eastward across the majority of the United States. But it doesn't hang around too long. And I say too long, but by the between the 21st and the 26th, days 5 through 9, it begins to modify a little bit and warm up, while some real close to normal, maybe slightly above, slightly below, depending upon where you are. temperatures, but at least closer to normal than what we are going to see here shortly. Meanwhile, cold air starts to reload across the Intermountain West, and if we were able to push this out a little bit more, it might. Indications are we're going to have like a wavy pattern set up to where it'll get really cold and it'll start to get closer to normal in some spots, and then it'll get really cold again. So we're going to have probably multiple rounds of Arctic blasts as we get into the late stages of January into February, possibly. That'll do it for this update. It's going to be cold, so make preparations. We figured this is going to be happening for a while, so just be safe out there, and I will see you in the next video.